Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today, the Liberal caucus received a letter signed by the subacute nurses at Seven Oaks Hospital. It's clear from the Health Minister's answers he has no idea what's happening there. The letter is a cry for help and a warning, Madam Speaker, because these nurses make it clear they are, and I quote, receiving unsafe transfers from other hospitals that are not appropriate admissions. Diagnoses such as congestive heart failure, sepsis, and unstable angina are putting patients at risk. We as nurses are not equipped to handle multiple acute medicine patients. They go on to say, Seven Oaks General Hospital has been running at overcapacity for the past few months. There is no funding from the WRHA for extra beds. We do not feel we can provide safe and adequate care to these patients. Will the minister admit that adopting the NDP's peachy plan to close ERs was not an act of courage, but a colossal error in judgment? Will he put the brakes on a plan that nurses say is putting patients at risk?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Active Living.
Madam Speaker, actually it was only 2 weeks ago that the original author of this report came back into this jurisdiction, an independent external expert who has done this work all over the world, as those NDP know, because they hired him. And what his summation was is that the plan for Manitoba's healthcare transformation is the right plan, that there is implicit across the system buy-in from leaders and from frontline workers, but that the plan must be adaptable. We are showing that we can adapt. The member is asking, will we listen to nurses? I am happy to inform that member that even this afternoon as he speaks, the Chief Operating Officer and the Chief Nursing Officer are both meeting with system leaders to hear the concerns raised by nurses.
The Honourable Leader of the Second Opposition on a supplementary question.
Madam Speaker, we keep hearing that these ERs have to be closed because Vancouver and Calgary have fewer ERs. But what the NDP PC Peachy report did was put ERs in a straight line across Winnipeg. Nothing for South Winnipeg, nothing north of the tracks. So good luck to anyone who gets stuck at a rail crossing in the back of an ambulance in Transcona. That's not how ERs in other cities work. They're spread out, the way they were in Winnipeg until this government came along. Yesterday, the Minister of Health listed the health cuts and closures under the NDP, which I tabled. It reminds me of the end of Animal Farm, Madam Speaker. Voices were shouting in anger and they were all alike. We can look from NDP to PC and from PC to NDP and from NDP to PC again, but already it's impossible to say which was which. When this government lists NDP closures of ERs and hospitals, is it out of envy? Does the Premier think that closing even more ERs and hospitals would make him better than the NDP?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Active Living.
Madam Speaker, it's interesting to hear the leader for the Second Opposition join the chorus of NDP voices who say go back to the past. Manitobans understand what the implication is of that message. They know that they had the worst wait times in Canada. They know that they had some of the toughest challenges to actually see a specialist or a doctor. And yet the NDP and Liberals say in one voice, go back. Manitobans don't want to go back. That member is right when he cites the fact that Calgary has 1/3 the number of emergency departments and yet has wait times that are 1/5 that of Manitobans. The plan that we have for Manitobans is a plan to get better health care sooner based on evidence, based on expertise, and based on the positive experience of other provinces. They didn't have the courage to act. We do.
The Honourable Leader of the Second Opposition on a final supplementary.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It's important to point out how much the government relies on arguments that are purely imaginary. The Premier talks about a projection where the deficit was headed, not what the deficit actually was. He talks about what federal healthcare funding would have been if it hadn't been different. He talks about the funding promises in budgets that never materialized. It's a world of make-believe. But nurses and doctors and patients in the healthcare system are facing cold, hard reality that is spelled out in black and white in this government's own budgets. Even as this government gets more healthcare funding, as our population grows and ages, and as this government demands massive change and adds a whole new layer of bureaucracy, actual spending by this PC government has been frozen since 2016. Will this government listen to the nurses, doctors and patients at Seven Oaks, Concordia, St. Boniface, Grace, Victoria and across Manitoba and stop the cuts and invest before it's too late?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Active Living.
Madam Speaker, the member essentially asks, will this government return to the same failed approaches of the past NDP government? The answer to that question is no. Manitobans expect more. We have promised to deliver more. It's why even Kaihai now cites the fact that Manitoba is bucking the trend where every other jurisdiction has seen its wait times go up. Manitobans is seeing those wait times drop. I regret to inform that member and the members on that side that even in emergency rooms across Winnipeg, those wait times are dropping this month. Madam Speaker, there's more and more evidence that this plan to get better health care sooner for Manitobans is working. I only regret that the members would spend their time listening to the answer that they asked for and not chirping on the other side the whole time.